Sleeping in the wild, before beds existed. Caves and cold ground. Long before the invention of the bed, before any memory of luxury linens or silky sheets, our earliest ancestors found sleep wherever the earth allowed. Picture a time when humans lived in caves, cold, dark, echoing spaces carved out by nature's hand. These caves, though harsh by today's standards, provided protection from the wind, rain, and prowling animals of the wild. At night, the cave would hum with the soft breathing of an entire group curled together near the warmth of a fire, its flickering light painting shadows on the uneven stone walls. The cold ground beneath them wasn't seen as uncomfortable. It was simply part of life. They would lie on bare earth or rocky floors, curling up tightly to preserve heat. Moss, grass, and leaves were sometimes gathered to create a makeshift layer of insulation. There were no pillows, no blankets, no sense of personal sleep space, only the shared warmth of a community, of survival. And when night fell, sleep came not as a luxury but as necessity. Under the blanket of stars, or stone, dreams would rise from exhaustion. The cave echoed with stories in the form of slow breaths and muted murmurs, as if the earth itself was cradling the first whispers of human rest. Animal skins as first bedding. Over time, as early humans became more resourceful, they began to improve the surfaces on which they slept. One of the first major comforts introduced to nighttime rest was animal skin. These thick, insulating hides, gathered from successful hunts, were soft, warm, and protective against the bitter chill of night. They were spread out on dirt floors, inside caves or early huts, creating a buffer between human skin and the unforgiving ground. Sleeping on animal skins was not just about comfort. It was about warmth, survival, and even status. Those who had more skins could share them or sleep more comfortably. The texture of the fur, the way it held body heat, and the security it provided marked a shift in how humans approached sleep. When the stars glimmered and firelight dimmed, the cool night would press in. But under a thick fur hide, one might feel the closest thing to what we now know as coziness. It was a moment of peace in a wild, dangerous world. Children would curl beside their parents, wrapped in these primitive blankets, and fall asleep to the soothing rhythm of heartbeats and the crackling of a dying fire. Sleeping positions in prehistoric times. Without beds, pillows, or mattresses to shape our postures, prehistoric humans developed instinctual sleeping positions, ones that kept them warm, safe, and ready to respond to any danger. Fetal position was common, curling inward to preserve body heat, protect vital organs, and feel secure. Entire groups would sleep in tight clusters, backs together or facing one another, building warmth through proximity. In open terrain, where danger from animals or rival tribes lurked, people often slept lightly, ready to awaken at the sound of footsteps or rustling leaves. Some even slept sitting upright or with heads leaning against trees or walls, staying semi-alert while catching short bursts of sleep. Imagine a mother sleeping with her child nestled against her chest, or a hunter dozing while his hand clutched a spear. There was no softness, no memory foam. There was only the body, the earth, and the need to rest enough to survive one more day. This simplicity, though harsh, was deeply connected to nature and instinct. How climate shaped early sleep. Sleep in ancient times was profoundly shaped by the climate. In hot regions, people slept outdoors beneath trees, where breezes could pass over their skin. They often slept during cooler nights and took midday naps, siestas, to avoid the blazing sun. Thin coverings of leaves or woven mats were used to protect the skin from insects and dirt. In colder regions, the opposite was true. People slept in tightly enclosed spaces, often with fires burning nearby. They wore multiple layers of furs and huddled together to survive freezing nights. The sleep environment was a product of necessity. Caves sealed with stone, huts with thatched roofs, snow dugouts, anything to keep in heat and keep out wind. The seasons also guided sleep. In winter, long nights meant longer rest periods. In summer, people rose earlier and stayed awake longer. There was no alarm clock, no 9-to-5 routine, only the natural rhythm of the sun, the cold, and the warmth. Community sleeping and safety. Sleep in prehistoric communities was not solitary. People slept in groups, for safety, warmth, and social bonding. The idea of a private bedroom would have seemed alien. Entire families, sometimes entire tribes, rested together in shared spaces. Children nestled against parents. Elders dozed near the fire. Guards or watchers took turns staying semi-awake, listening for predators or intruders. This communal sleeping had deep emotional roots. It built trust, reduced fear, and strengthened relationships. Whispered conversations, soft lullabies, and slow breathing filled the night air. If one woke, the others stirred. If danger approached, all could respond. Imagine falling asleep each night surrounded by those who mattered most to you. No walls, no doors, only shared body heat and the low hum of living. There was comfort in togetherness. Safety in the sound of others sleeping nearby. The role of fire in nighttime rest. Fire transformed sleep. Once early humans learned to control it, fire became a guardian, a comfort, a silent protector of the night. Flames offered warmth against the chill, light against the dark, and protection from wild animals who feared its flicker. Fires were kept burning all night, sometimes by adding wood in shifts. People slept around it in circles, their shadows dancing on cave walls or dirt floors. The scent of smoke clung to fur, skins, and hair. Sparks whispered like lullabies. And beyond its physical benefits, fire gave emotional security. It was a boundary, a signal to the mind that it was safe to relax. The glow of embers was often the last thing eyes saw before drifting into dreams. First tools for comfort. Though crude, early humans began developing simple tools to make sleep more comfortable. Stones were sometimes stacked as headrests. Hollowed logs became neck supports. Woven grass mats elevated bodies slightly off the ground. Tree bark was softened and layered beneath hides. These tools were not consistent or widespread, but they showed a growing desire not just to sleep, but to sleep better. This was the beginning of the long journey toward beds as we know them. Even a small shift, a piece of moss under the head, marked evolution. Over time, materials became more refined. Bark was shaved smoother. Mats were woven tighter. People began experimenting, adjusting, refining. Comfort was becoming a goal, not just a luxury. Tribal sleeping customs. Each tribe developed its own sleeping customs, rituals that shaped how, when, and where people slept. Some painted symbols near sleeping spaces for protection. Others believed in sleeping in certain directions to align with spiritual forces. In some cultures, dreams were sacred. Children were taught to share their dreams each morning. Elders interpreted them, guiding decisions. Sleep was not a waste of time. It was a source of wisdom. Bedtime rituals included storytelling, singing, or the use of herbs. Certain plants were burned to promote restful sleep. Special objects were placed beside the head for luck or peace. These customs gave sleep meaning, turning it into a nightly ceremony. Nighttime sounds of the wild. In the prehistoric world, the night was rarely silent. Wind rustled leaves. Owls called from trees. Insects buzzed and chirped. Distant howls echoed through valleys. These sounds, rather than alarming, became familiar, almost like a lullaby. Humans adapted to this nighttime symphony. The rhythm of nature became the rhythm of sleep. The sound of dripping water, the rustle of grass, the hum of fire, all formed a background chorus that soothed the mind. Even today, many people fall asleep to recordings of nature. Rainfall, forest sounds, ocean waves. It is as if we still long to return to those wild lullabies from our earliest nights. Dreams and myths of the first sleepers. Our ancestors dreamed, just as we do. Though they had no science to explain dreams, they believed them to be powerful messages, visions from ancestors, warnings from spirits, or glimpses into other worlds. Some tribes believed the soul left the body during sleep. Others thought dreams predicted the hunt, warned of danger, or revealed truths. Myths were born from dreams, flying through the sky, meeting long-dead relatives, visiting spirit animals. Children were raised to listen to their dreams. Elders became interpreters, and whole communities made decisions based on what was seen in sleep. In this way, sleep was never just about rest. It was about mystery, meaning, and connection to something greater. The first beds, from nature to nests. The earliest sleeping platforms. As human understanding of comfort and structure evolved, so did our approach to sleep. The earliest known beds weren't beds in the modern sense, but elevated sleeping platforms built from natural materials. Archaeologists discovered such a structure in South Africa, estimated to be over 77,000 years old. It was composed of layered plant materials and possibly protected by ash to deter insects. These platforms were often made by weaving sticks, reeds, and leaves together to raise sleepers off the dirt and avoid crawling insects, dampness, and cold. Sometimes, people constructed simple frames out of branches, then covered them with animal hides. This was not about luxury, it was about creating boundaries between the body and the ground. Sleeping slightly elevated gave a psychological sense of safety. It showed how human beings were beginning to not only use nature, but to reshape it for comfort, little by little. The birth of the bed had begun, in the most humble of ways. Beds in the trees, arboreal rest. Long before humans slept on firm ground in permanent homes, our tree-dwelling ancestors found comfort among the branches. Even today, many apes and primates build nests high above the forest floor. They bend thick branches to create platforms and line them with leaves, forming soft, secure beds that sway gently with the wind. This instinct may have been passed on through evolution. Sleeping in trees protected early hominids from predators and flooding. Up in the canopy, night winds whispered through leaves, and moonlight filtered through foliage like soft lamplight. Imagine closing your eyes under a jungle sky, the scent of greenery all around, the rustle of distant animals muffled by height. The trees cradled our earliest dreams, long before walls and roofs took their place. Beds made of straw and leaves. As humans settled into early villages, they turned to the earth's softer offerings for sleep. Straw, hay, dried grasses, and leaves became essential bedding materials. Piled thickly on hut floors or tucked into primitive wooden frames, these natural cushions lifted the body from the ground and added warmth and softness to rest. This method of bedding was widespread, from ancient Europe to East Asia and Africa. It was renewable, easy to gather, and simple to maintain. Dried lavender or herbs were sometimes mixed in, not for fragrance, but to deter insects and bring restful sleep. The crackle of straw beneath the body, the earthy scent of dried leaves, and the quiet of night gave sleep a rustic charm. There was no mattress, no foam, just the gifts of nature woven into nightly comfort. Animal fur and hide bedding. Alongside straw, hides and furs remained central to sleep. In colder regions, especially, thick animal pelts were prized as sleeping surfaces. A bed made of reindeer or bear fur was not only warm, it was a symbol of success and survival. The softness of fur, the way it retained body heat, and its natural resistance to moisture made it ideal for sleep. Families would often layer furs on top of straw or wood planks, creating early mattress-like structures. Some would lie directly on stretched hides, others would wrap themselves in them like sleeping bags. The sensation of thick fur beneath one's body was a comfort born of necessity, and it connected sleep to the cycle of life and the wilderness that surrounded them. First, bed frames and boundaries. Eventually, humans began crafting structures to support bedding. Using wood and vines, they built frames, primitive beds that lifted sleepers above the floor. These early bed frames were simple rectangles, low to the ground, often lashed together with leather or rope. Wooden slats or woven reeds created a spring-like base, and on top, straw or skins were added. This innovation did more than improve sleep, it marked a cultural shift. Beds now had shape, identity, and sometimes even ownership. In some communities, the head of the family had a larger bed. Children shared smaller frames. Beds were kept close to fires in colder regions and near windows in warmer ones. Boundaries were forming, not just physical, but social. And sleep was beginning to find its sacred space. Sleeping mats and rolls. In warmer climates, elaborate beds weren't needed. People slept on mats woven from reeds, grasses, or palm fibers. These mats were rolled up during the day to create living space and unrolled at night for sleep. They were lightweight, portable, and perfect for regions where open-air sleeping was common. Mats were also the early versions of beds on the go. Travelers, soldiers, and nomads carried their own mats, laying them wherever shelter could be found. Some cultures, especially in Asia and Africa, still cherish this form of sleeping. The mat encouraged a natural posture, flat back, low to the earth, close to the breeze. Sleep was rhythmic, tied to the sun's rising and setting. The mat was humble, but it carried with it the serenity of minimalism and simplicity. Early bed design in civilizations. As human societies became more organized, so did their sleep setups. Ancient Egypt, for example, featured wooden bed frames with legs carved like animal limbs. Elevated to protect from snakes and pests, these beds were symbols of status. Wealthier Egyptians used palm fiber mattresses and linen sheets, while others slept on woven mats. In Mesopotamia, raised platforms became common in wealthier homes. Some were decorated with carvings or metal inlays. Bedding included wool or animal hair padding, and sometimes bolsters or cushions. Design met purpose, and beds started becoming works of art, decorative, symbolic, and central to domestic life. Sleep had evolved from mere necessity to a structured ritual. Cultural symbolism of early beds. Beds began to take on cultural and symbolic meaning. In many early civilizations, the bed was not just where one rested. It was where major life events occurred. Birth, sickness, dreams, and death. In some traditions, beds were seen as sacred. They were anointed with oils or adorned with flowers. In others, the direction the bed faced mattered, towards the sunrise for energy, away from the door for protection. The bed became a reflection of beliefs. From spiritual to social meanings, it carried stories, secrets, and values. It was no longer just a surface to sleep on. It was a part of identity. Sleeping alone versus shared sleep. In early human communities, sleeping together was common. But as beds became individualized, the idea of sleeping alone started to grow. In some cultures, children had their own mats. In others, couples shared beds while elders had their own. This shift marked the beginning of private sleep spaces, something unimaginable in the caves of the past. Beds became personal sanctuaries, not communal shelters. Still, in many societies, sharing beds remained the norm. Families often slept side by side. Warmth, connection, and space dictated arrangements. Whether alone or together, the bed was a place of rest, and increasingly, of choice. Dawn of decorative bedding. Finally, as beds became more structured and symbolic, so too did the items that adorned them. Early decorative bedding included colorful textiles, embroidered covers, dyed linens, and patterned mats. Blankets were woven with care. Covers bore signs of family or tribe. Even simple huts were brightened by vivid bedding. In many regions, bedding became a form of wealth and pride, passed down from generation to generation. The bed, once just a pile of leaves, had now become a place of beauty, comfort, and meaning. It was no longer borrowed from nature. It was crafted by human hands and hearts. Beds of ancient civilizations. Egyptian elegance. Sleep in the land of pharaohs. In the golden sands of ancient Egypt, sleep was not merely a nightly ritual. It was a ceremony of design and divinity. The elite lay upon raised wooden beds with short legs, shaped like lion paws. These beds sloped slightly downward from head to foot, elevating the head to honor the gods and encourage dreams. Instead of pillows, Egyptians used wooden or stone headrests, curved supports designed to cradle the neck. Linen sheets, woven from fine flax, cooled the skin in the desert night. The poor might have slept on palm mats or bundles of straw, but even the humblest spaces bore the influence of Egypt's grand design. In the quiet of the Nile night, under a canopy of stars, sleep carried one closer to the afterlife. Dreams were believed to be divine messages, and the bed, a place to rest and to pass into eternity, was carefully aligned, often placed near shrines or family idols. The silence of the tomb and the serenity of the Nile mirrored each other in Egypt's reverence for sleep. Greek tranquility, decline and repose. In the cool, stone-walled homes of ancient Greece, decline ruled as both a dining couch and a sleeping bed. These low couches, made of wood or metal, were adorned with woven fabrics and cushions. At banquets, Greeks reclined on their clines while eating and conversing. And by night, the same couches transformed into beds. Sleep in Greece was deeply intertwined with the gods. Hypnos, the god of sleep, and his twin brother Thanatos, god of death, were ever present in poetry and sculpture. Sleep was a sacred pause in daily life, a moment for the body to restore and the soul to drift through the space between the living and the divine. Greek beds often had woven straps or strings beneath a mattress made of wool or straw. Wealthy households added dyed sheets, embroidered with myths or familial crests. Oil lamps flickered low, and the faint scent of olive oil and lavender drifted through stone corridors. In Greece, the philosophy of rest was as important as that of reason. Sleep was a time to reflect, to dream, and to connect with the eternal. Roman comfort, luxurious layers. The Romans brought engineering to their bedrooms. Beds, or lecti, were constructed with sturdy frames of bronze or wood. Rope netting or slats supported the sleeper. Mattresses were stuffed with wool, feathers, or straw, depending on one's wealth. The more affluent the sleeper, the more layers the bed might have. A Roman bedroom might include a lectica for travel, or a lectus cubicularis for nighttime sleep. Pillows, called pulvini, were filled with down or reeds. Richly colored textiles, crimson, indigo, and gold, draped the sleeping area. Romans understood the link between health and rest. Physicians like Galen prescribed specific sleeping positions and believed dreams revealed bodily imbalances. Sleep was a daily luxury, carefully prepared. In villas outside Rome, breeze-cooled sleeping porches were built. Here, the air was fresh, and the scent of pine and citrus mingled with night. Sleep came easily in the embrace of Roman comfort, beneath mosaic ceilings and quiet, moonlit columns. Mesopotamian simplicity, clay, wool, and silence. In ancient Mesopotamia, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, people lived in mud-brick homes and often slept on earthen platforms covered in woven mats. Wool, blankets, and camel hair were commonly used for warmth. Beds were not elaborate, but functional, set apart in corners or alcoves. Kings and nobles, however, might sleep on raised wooden beds, intricately carved and adorned with bronze or shell. Textiles were dyed with natural colors and embroidered with geometric designs. The Mesopotamians recorded dreams on clay tablets, considering them messages from the gods. Temples offered dream incubation, sacred places where priests interpreted visions for guidance. Here, sleep was a means of divination. Under starlit skies and within mud-plastered rooms, sleep arrived gently. The silence of the desert, the whisper of reeds in the marsh, and the steady breath of resting bodies filled the air. Indus Valley quietude, minimalist beds and cool nights. In the ancient cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, part of the Indus Valley civilization, life was marked by quiet order. Homes were neatly arranged with built-in sleeping platforms made of baked brick. These platforms doubled as benches during the day and beds at night. People used mats made from reeds, and perhaps thin cushions. Summers were hot, so many slept on flat roofs beneath the stars, enjoying the cool night breeze. Simplicity defined the space. No excessive decoration. No extravagant furnishings. Just the earth, air, and calm. Though few artifacts remain, the layout of homes suggests a culture that valued cleanliness and structure. Drains carried water away, and sleeping quarters were often separated for privacy. Sleep, in the Indus Valley, was intimate and orderly, a private act amidst the symmetry of urban planning. Even dreams seemed quieter here, under skies streaked with monsoon clouds. Chinese refinement, silk dreams and wooden frames. Ancient China introduced refinement to the world of sleep. Wooden beds, often raised and box-like, were placed in the corners of rooms, oriented according to feng shui principles. Headrests were made of bamboo or porcelain. The wealthy layered their beds with silk sheets and jade-studded covers. Dreams were studied and written about. Confucian scholars considered sleep a time for reflection and spiritual alignment. Some believed dreams allowed visits to ancestors or glimpses of alternate lives. Screens surrounded the beds to shield from drafts and to create intimacy. In colder regions, heated bricks, or foot warmers were used under the bedding. Everything was intentional, structured for harmony. In the quiet of calligrapher-lined walls, beside tea jars and paper lanterns, sleep came softly. The rustle of silk, the breath of incense, and the hush of snow outside made for a deeply serene slumber. Japanese tatami traditions. In ancient Japan, minimalism and mindfulness defined sleep. People laid out futons, flat, foldable mattresses, on tatami mats made from rice straw. These mats filled rooms with a fresh, grassy scent and offered a soft yet firm surface for sleeping. Futons were folded and stored each morning, allowing the room to be used for other purposes. This practice instilled respect for space and order. Thin cotton blankets, or cakebutan, offered warmth in winter. The room was quiet, simple. Sliding shoji screens let in moonlight. A small lamp or incense burner might be the only ornament. Dreams were personal, often influenced by nature. Snow on bamboo, frogs croaking by a pond, the sound of rain. In Japan, sleep became a meditative ritual, a daily return to simplicity, breath, and stillness. African bed traditions, earth and elevation. Across ancient Africa, sleep styles varied by region. In dry areas, people built beds raised on wooden frames to avoid insects and dust. These were topped with mats woven from palm, reeds, or grasses. In humid regions, people slept on earthen floors covered with animal hides or leaves. Some tribes built platforms above fire pits, using smoke to deter pests. In others, families shared large mats, sleeping in circles for warmth and safety. Beds were communal, not private. Dreams held deep spiritual meaning. In many traditions, dreams were used for healing, warnings, or communication with ancestors. Elders interpreted them, often in rituals or storytelling gatherings. Sleep was tied to land and legacy. Under baobab trees, beside clay walls, wrapped in woven cloth, sleep was grounding, rooted in the soil and soul. Native American sleeping spaces. In indigenous North America, sleeping spaces were deeply connected to nature and community. In longhouses or teepees, families slept side by side on raised platforms or on mats made of cattails and animal hides. Bedding might include buffalo robes, woven blankets, or bark layers. The fire in the center of the dwelling provided warmth through the night. Dreams were significant, viewed as spiritual visions, often discussed with tribal elders or medicine men. The stars overhead were guides. The night breeze, an old friend. Sleep was not separated from life. It flowed with the seasons, the earth, the ancestors. Beds weren't only physical, they were spiritual. Bed as a social statement in ancient times. By the time ancient civilizations fully matured, beds had become social indicators. In Rome, only the rich had lecti with ivory legs. In China, high box beds denoted status. In Greece, fine bedding showed intellect and wealth. To be offered a bed in someone's home was an act of honor. In some cultures, your bed's appearance told guests about your family's pride. The choice of materials, silk, wool, feathers, wasn't just comfort, it was communication. But beneath all status symbols was a simple truth. The bed was a place of peace. A pause. A return to the self. Whether humble or ornate, shared or solitary, every ancient bed whispered the same lullaby. Rest, dream, and rise again. Medieval nights, sleep in castles and cottages. Feudal slumber, lords and peasants. In the shadowy glow of torchlight and candle flame, medieval Europe tucked itself into a rhythm of long nights and chilly air. For lords and peasants alike, sleep was a nightly surrender to stillness, though their beds were worlds apart. A noble lord might sleep in a grand four-poster bed, draped with heavy velvet curtains to hold in warmth and keep out the draft. The frame stood tall and proud, carved with crests and saints, standing as a symbol of both comfort and power. Under layers of woolen blankets, on feather-filled mattresses, sleep came softly. In contrast, the common peasant found rest on a straw mattress laid atop the floor or wooden planks. These mattresses were stuffed with hay or rushes, sometimes called palliasses, and offered simple, firm support. Blankets might be shared, hand-woven, and slightly itchy, but they carried the warmth of a hard day's labor. Outside, owls called from trees, and the wind whispered through barn rafters. Whether on polished oak or packed earth, everyone sought the same thing: rest beneath the silent gaze of the stars. The great hall versus the hearth. Class divide in sleeping spaces. In castles, the great hall was once a communal sleeping space. Servants and guards laid down side by side on benches or directly on the stone floor, wrapped in cloaks or animal skins. The hearth fire at the room's center flickered low through the night, casting long, swaying shadows on timber beams above. But as castles evolved, the nobility moved into private chambers. These rooms, often found in towers or behind thick wooden doors, were quieter and more insulated from the cold. A chamber pot tucked beneath the bed, a small window shuttered tight, and perhaps a carved chest at the foot of the bed were all standard features. In cottages, the hearth was the heart of the home. Families slept near it, especially during winter. Children might share a straw bed, huddled together for warmth, while elders lay closer to the fire. Privacy was a rare luxury, and so was silence. Babies crying, wind whistling, and animals stirring in the barnyard. Still, in both high and humble dwellings, the night was revered. A time to retreat, to rest, and to rise once again with the rooster's call. Canopy beds and curtains, shielding sleep from cold and spirits. The canopy bed was more than ornate furniture. It was a practical solution. Thick curtains hung on all sides, blocking icy drafts that snuck in through stone walls and unsealed windows. These curtains could be drawn tight, creating a warm cocoon of privacy and stillness. But they weren't just for warmth. In medieval belief, sleep was a vulnerable time, when spirits and unseen forces might wander. Curtains provided a protective barrier, not just from earthly chills, but from otherworldly presences. Bed testers were employed by the wealthy to ensure the mattress was soft enough, clean enough, and pest-free. And within the enclosed bed, a person could whisper secrets, read prayers by candlelight, or simply listen to the sound of rain pattering on a thatched roof. As the wind howled through the castle keep or the forest rustled beyond the village, these beds became a haven of calm in a world of chaos. Nightwear and bedclothes, from tunics to nightcaps. Sleepwear in the medieval world was simple and practical. Most people wore long linen or wool tunics to bed, sometimes the same ones worn during the day. Only the wealthy had special nightgowns or robes reserved for rest. Nightcaps were common. These soft, rounded hats helped retain body heat and were often tied beneath the chin. Hands and feet, too, were covered, either with socks or tucked into warm bedding. In colder climates, people sometimes slept fully dressed. Bed linens were washed infrequently, so fragrant herbs, lavender, rosemary, mint, were sprinkled between sheets to keep insects away and add a pleasant aroma. Flea infestations were common, and bedbugs were an unfortunate reality. Despite the simplicity, there was a certain dignity in preparing for sleep. A prayer whispered in candlelight, a careful folding of clothes, the hush of breath before the flame was snuffed. All spoke of a day ending, and a soul surrendering to rest. The role of fireplaces and bed warmers. Fireplaces in medieval bedrooms were small, often built into the corner of the room. They provided limited warmth, their flickering glow casting moving shadows on the walls. Most of the heat escaped through the chimney, so people relied on extra measures. Bed warmers, metal pans filled with hot coals, were slipped between the sheets before sleep. These glowing tools were passed back and forth, warming the bed slowly. But one had to be careful. Too hot, and the sheets could scorch or catch fire. In cottages, embers from the hearth might be carried in clay pots and placed near the sleeping area. People knew how to balance danger with necessity. The smell of smoke and warm earth filled the room. The crackling fire and soft pop of burning wood became a lullaby of its own. In winter's depth, fire was not just warmth, it was survival. And in that gentle heat, families rested beneath quilts and whispered tales of warmer days. Sleeping positions and superstitions. In medieval lore, how you slept mattered. Sleeping on your back was thought to invite bad dreams or even evil spirits. Many believed that side sleeping, especially on the right side, was safer and healthier. Beds were sometimes aligned east to west, so sleepers' heads faced the rising sun, symbolizing rebirth and protection. Others placed crosses above the bed or recited prayers to Saint Joseph, the patron saint of peaceful sleep. It was said that if a child slept with their arms above their head, they'd grow tall. Sleeping with feet pointing toward the door was to be avoided. It mimicked the position of a body prepared for burial. In such a mystical age, the night was alive with unseen forces. A charm under the pillow, an iron knife near the bedpost, or a sprig of garlic on the windowsill might keep nightmares at bay. And yet, in the quiet hours, most people simply turned on their side, pulled the covers up, and trusted the dark to hold them gently until dawn. The two-sleep pattern of the Middle Ages. Surprisingly, medieval people did not always sleep in one long stretch. Instead, they often followed a two-sleep pattern. The night was divided into two phases, with a period of quiet wakefulness in between. First sleep began shortly after nightfall and lasted a few hours. Then people would wake naturally, around midnight, for an hour or two. This time was spent praying, meditating, writing, or even visiting neighbors. Then came second sleep, which lasted until dawn. This pattern was deeply ingrained in the rhythm of medieval life. Without artificial light, the body followed natural circadian cues. The in-between time was considered sacred, a moment when the mind wandered and the world softened. In this interlude, dreams were remembered, the fire was stoked, and the soul floated quietly between waking and sleep. It was not disruption, it was design. A soft pause between two layers of slumber. Communal sleeping, families, servants, and animals. Privacy was rare in medieval homes. Entire families often shared a single bed or slept close by. In small cottages, parents and children might lie together on a large straw mattress. In castles, servants slept on floors or benches nearby their masters' chambers. Even animals, dogs, cats, goats, shared the space. Their body heat was welcome on cold nights. In some regions, hens and small livestock were brought indoors for protection, their clucking and snorting adding to the lullaby of night. This closeness fostered intimacy but left little room for solitude. Still, it was comforting. A child could fall asleep to the sound of their mother's breathing. A shepherd could drift off with a dog curled at his feet. The medieval bed was not just for rest, it was for connection. In shared warmth and whispered lullabies, sleep became a collective act of trust. Dream beliefs and medieval sleep philosophy. Dreams were more than fleeting images. They were prophecies, messages from heaven, or tricks from the devil. Dream interpretation was studied seriously, with books devoted to decoding symbols and signs. A white horse might mean victory. Falling could mean sin. Flying signaled the presence of angels. Monks, mystics, and midwives all took interest in what visited the mind during sleep. Medieval people believed that the soul traveled while the body rested. Some said it could leave the body, commune with saints, or be tempted by demons. Protective charms, prayer beads, and holy relics were kept near the bed for this reason. And yet, despite fear and folklore, dreams were deeply human. In times of plague, war, and uncertainty, people dreamed of peace, of fields and rivers, of lost loved ones and coming joys. Sleep offered escape. Dreams offered hope. Sleep as escape and sanctuary in harsh times. Life in the medieval world was harsh. Disease, famine, toil, and fear were ever present. Sleep became a sanctuary, a small, nightly escape from the weight of the world. For the peasant, it was a release from aching muscles. For the knight, a break from armor and war. For the monk, a moment of quiet beyond bells and prayer. Even kings, burdened with rule, sought comfort in a bed surrounded by tapestries and trusted guards. Sleep was both healing and hiding. The mind slipped away from cold and hunger, from grief and worry. Beneath the blankets, every sleeper, regardless of status, could return to a world of dreams, of warmth, of stillness. And in that fragile, blessed pause between days, they found what every soul seeks, rest. Renaissance and royal bedrooms. The golden glow of the Renaissance. The Renaissance dawned with the soft hush of learning and light. As cathedrals soared and paintings bloomed across canvas, the world of sleep quietly evolved alongside. Gone were the stark, stone-walled chambers of medieval castles. In their place emerged warmer, grander, and more intimate spaces, bedrooms that whispered luxury. Noble families in Italy and France began decorating their sleeping quarters with rich fabrics, damask, brocade, silk. Walls were adorned with murals of angels and saints. Ceilings arched with painted heavens. A bedroom was no longer merely a place to rest. It became a chamber for retreat, reflection, and romance. Candles flickered in bronze sconces. Tapestries muffled footsteps and absorbed the chill. Beds were placed in the center of the room, like thrones. And sleep itself, still bound in ritual and superstition, became a nightly journey beneath carved cherubs and corfered ceilings. Royal beds, thrones of slumber. In the courts of Florence, Paris, and beyond, royal beds became the stuff of legend. They stood elevated, sometimes requiring stools or small ladders to climb into. Posts rose tall and dramatic, often gilded or wrapped in fabric. Heavy velvet curtains could be drawn all around, turning the bed into a private pavilion. These royal beds were often shared with advisors, courtiers, or even artists, not for intimacy, but as a display of power and favor. To be invited to witness a king rise or retire was a political privilege. Kings and queens bathed before sleep with rosewater. Attendants warmed the bed with bricks or braziers. A trusted servant stood watch outside the door. Inside, royalty drifted into dreams among embroidered pillows, fur-lined blankets, and the knowledge that their sleep shaped kingdoms. The emergence of bedrooms as private spaces. The Renaissance gave rise to the concept of privacy. For the first time, the bedroom began to stand alone, not simply as a corner of a communal hall, but as a room with a door, a lock, and personal treasures. Aristocrats and wealthy merchants commissioned special rooms for sleeping, reading, or receiving close confidants. These chambers were sometimes perfumed with orange blossoms or lavender. They held armoires for personal clothing, writing desks, and mirrors made of polished metal. A sense of stillness settled into these rooms. They became sanctuaries of thought and sleep, places where one might write a letter by candlelight or sit quietly by the hearth. As walls grew thicker and doors more common, the night grew more personal, more protected, and more peaceful. Renaissance sleepwear and rituals. Nightwear, too, reflected the age of refinement. Gone were coarse tunics. Men and women now wore tailored nightgowns of soft linen or silk, often embroidered with initials or lace. Nightcaps remained fashionable, trimmed with ribbon or lace edging. Rituals before bed included hand-washing with scented water, prayers recited from illuminated books, and sometimes soft music played on a lute or harp. The elite might burn incense or use pomanders, perfume-filled orbs, to scent their rooms. A final sip of warm, spiced wine or herbal tea eased the body toward slumber. In such care and ceremony, bedtime became not a necessity, but an art. The body, wrapped in comfort. The soul, softened by prayer. The room, flickering with quiet beauty. Sleep and the humanist mind. Renaissance thinkers were fascinated by dreams and rest. They saw sleep not only as a physical need but as a moment of divine insight. Artists, writers, and philosophers documented their dreams, believing them to hold symbolic wisdom or creative muse. Leonardo da Vinci himself is said to have experimented with segmented sleep, napping throughout the day and night to maximize productivity. He considered sleep a delicate instrument of the mind, one to be studied and shaped. Scholars read ancient texts on dreams, from Aristotle to Cicero. Sleep was no longer passive. It was philosophical. In this age of reason and wonder, a quiet bedroom could become the cradle of invention, and a dream, the first sketch of a masterpiece. The influence of art and aesthetics in the bedroom. The Renaissance was a feast for the eyes, and nowhere was that more evident than in the bedrooms of the well-to-do. Paintings hung in gold-gilt frames. Statues watched from corners. Frescoes adorned ceilings, showing scenes of mythology or the Virgin Mary. Bed linens were hand-stitched, embroidered with vines, birds, or family crests. Even bedpans and candle holders were crafted with care, made of bronze or porcelain. Colors were symbolic. Deep reds for passion and power. Soft blues for peace. Gold for heaven. Everything in the bedroom told a story, of status, of taste, of belief. As sleep came each night, it did so under the gaze of angels painted on ceilings and gods carved into bedposts. Music, poetry, and bedtime entertainment. In the courts of Europe, bedtime was often preceded by gentle entertainment. A lute player might strum a slow ballad in the corridor. A lady's maid might read verses of Petrarch or Boccaccio aloud while combing her mistress's hair. Poetry was spoken like prayer. Soft and slow. Lines about stars, lost lovers, the turning seasons. Sometimes, nobles composed their own verses and whispered them beneath silk canopies. Sleep arrived, not abruptly, but like a boat gliding to a dock, guided gently by melody, story, and rhythm. And in the stillness that followed, the room itself seemed to hum with remembered words and fading chords. Herbal remedies and sleep tonics. The Renaissance saw a renewed interest in herbal medicine, including treatments for sleeplessness. Physicians recommended infusions of chamomile, valerian, and lemon balm. Lavender sachets were tucked under pillows. Rose petals floated in warm baths. Apothecaries sold sleep potions, some mild, some potent. A common blend might include poppy, honey, and crushed herbs. Stronger versions included opium or mandrake. People believed certain foods before bed, like figs, warm milk, or almonds, soothed the belly and calmed the mind. Heavy meals were discouraged late in the day. Sleep was treated as something to be courted, coaxed, and honored, not forced. A lover's ritual, not a brute necessity. Royal insomnia and sleepless nights. Yet even in such beauty, sleep could remain elusive. Monarchs burdened by governance, Henry VIII, Catherine de' Medici, and others, recorded long, restless nights. Some feared assassination. Others were haunted by war or betrayal. Beds became too big, too cold. Candles burned low. Pages waited for orders as their sovereigns tossed and turned. Doctors were summoned. Remedies brewed. Curtains adjusted. But still, the mind would not quiet. And so, even in the most gilded rooms, sleep could slip through fingers like fine silk. Not even kings could command it. The quiet power of sleep in a time of change. The Renaissance was a time of dazzling light, art, invention, reform. But in the quiet corners of night, people still sought the same ancient comfort, a place to rest. Whether in a noble's chamber with frescoed walls or a modest home with candles and cats, sleep wrapped itself around the world like a soft cloak. Dreams whispered of new ideas, bodies healed from long days, and hearts, filled with longing or peace, beat softly into the darkness. For all its brilliance, the Renaissance never outshone the deep, dark beauty of night. And in that velvet silence, sleep reigned supreme, silent, sacred, and eternal. Industrial slumber, how the machine age reshaped sleep. The dawn of industry and new rhythms of life. The Industrial Revolution, beginning in the late 18th century, was a profound turning point, not just in how goods were made, but in how people lived their daily lives. The rise of factories, mechanized tools, and urban centers introduced a new rhythm, one that would quietly ripple into the way humanity approached rest and sleep. Before the machines, life was more closely tied to the natural cycles of day and night. Farmers rose with the sun and rested when it set, following the gentle pattern that had sustained humans for millennia. But the factory bell rang sharply and relentlessly, signaling a new tempo that demanded punctuality, productivity, and long hours inside walls lit by flickering gas lamps or, later, electric bulbs. For many workers, this meant waking before dawn and returning home long after sunset. The natural cues faded into the background, replaced by the steady ticking of clocks and the ceaseless clatter of machinery. Sleep, once a flexible and often segmented experience, began to shrink and compress into shorter blocks of time, precious and fragile escapes from a world that never seemed to stop moving. The rise of the factory bell, regulating time and sleep. Factories introduced a discipline unknown to most before the industrial age. The factory bell was more than just a signal. It was a ruler of life. It marked the start and end of shifts, breaks, and mealtimes. Workers quickly learned to synchronize their bodies with its ringing. This new regularity helped to standardize sleep schedules, but also introduced challenges. Many factory workers, including women and children, endured grueling 12 to 16-hour shifts. Their sleep time was often relegated to brief, stolen moments. The factory bell became a relentless reminder of time's power over rest. Unlike rural life, where a person might rest when tired and wake with the sun, factory labor demanded strict adherence to hours, forcing sleep into rigid boundaries. Urbanization and the changing bedroom environment. As factories sprang up, so did cities. Crowded and bustling, the new industrial towns brought with them cramped living quarters. Many workers lived in small, shared rooms or boarding houses with little privacy or comfort. Bedrooms shrank in size, often dark and poorly ventilated. Street noise from horse-drawn carts, clattering machinery, and later, trams, spilled into homes. Smoke from factories clouded the air and sometimes seeped indoors, making breathing during sleep difficult. Candles and oil lamps were replaced gradually by gas lighting, which, though brighter, disrupted natural circadian rhythms. The constant glow of street lamps and shop windows illuminated city nights, blurring the lines between day and night. Sleep became a battle against noise, light, and discomfort. Conditions unfamiliar to previous generations who had slept under quiet skies and fresh air. The advent of artificial lighting and its impact on sleep. Perhaps one of the most transformative inventions of the industrial age was the widespread use of artificial lighting. Gas lamps first, followed by electric bulbs, stretched the day beyond sunset. Suddenly, people could work, socialize, and read long after the stars appeared. While this brought convenience, it also disrupted the natural cycles that regulated sleep. The brain's internal clock, or circadian rhythm, is influenced heavily by light. Exposure to artificial light in the evening delayed the production of melatonin, the hormone that signals the body to prepare for sleep. Workers and city dwellers found themselves staying awake longer, but often feeling more tired the next day. Sleep cycles shifted and sometimes fragmented, leading to a general sense of exhaustion. Yet, the glow of artificial light also symbolized progress, a bright, new world that seemed to promise endless possibility, even if it demanded a toll on rest. Segmented sleep and the industrial worker. Before the Industrial Revolution, it was common for people to experience segmented sleep, dividing their rest into two phases, separated by an hour or two of wakefulness. This time might be spent praying, reading, or quietly reflecting. With the rise of strict work schedules, this natural pattern was disrupted. Industrial workers needed to be alert and ready for their shifts, often leaving no room for a middle-of-the-night awakening. Instead, many tried to squeeze their sleep into one continuous block, often shortened by necessity. This created a new challenge, falling asleep quickly and staying asleep despite physical exhaustion and noisy environments. The ancient rhythm of two sleeps, once the norm for centuries, began fading in favor of the consolidated sleep pattern we recognize today. Sleep and health in industrial cities. The industrial era was also a time when doctors and scientists began to understand the relationship between sleep and health. Crowded, unsanitary urban environments contributed to illnesses that could disrupt rest, tuberculosis, cholera, and influenza. Poor nutrition, long hours, and harsh working conditions weakened many bodies, making restful sleep difficult to achieve. Mental health suffered, too. Anxiety about work, housing, and family security shadowed the nights. Some progressive thinkers called for reforms to improve living and working conditions. Public health campaigns promoted cleanliness, fresh air, and daylight. Parks and green spaces were designed to provide city dwellers with places to relax and breathe. Still, the average industrial worker faced a tough struggle for restorative sleep amidst the pressures of city life. The evolution of beds in the industrial age. Beds evolved in design and materials during this period. Whereas earlier beds were often grand, heavy, and made of wood, the industrial age introduced metal beds, which were easier to mass-produce and more affordable. Mattresses filled with horsehair or cotton became standard, though often hard and uneven. Bedding was simpler but aimed at hygiene, as the spread of disease prompted better cleaning practices. The concept of the bedroom as a private retreat persisted, but many workers shared small rooms with family or lodgers. Privacy was a luxury for the few. Industrialization also inspired innovations in sleep accessories, such as adjustable beds and early experiments with springs in mattresses, that promised greater comfort for those who could afford them. Shift work and the disruption of natural sleep patterns. Factories, railways, and later, mines operated around the clock. To keep machines running, workers were scheduled in shifts, sometimes overnight or in rotating patterns. Shift work threw a wrench into natural sleep cycles. Night shift workers often struggled to sleep during daylight hours, battling noise, light, and social isolation. Rotating shifts confused the internal clock, causing chronic fatigue and increased risk for health problems. Today, we recognize shift work disorder as a serious condition, but in the industrial age, it was a new and difficult reality for many. The demands of industrial progress often trumped the human need for rest, and many paid the price in long-term health. The birth of sleep science and early sleep studies. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the beginnings of modern sleep science. Physicians and researchers began carefully studying sleep patterns, stages, and disorders. Technological advances like the electroencephalogram, EEG, made it possible to measure brain activity during sleep. Early sleep clinics appeared, and doctors started prescribing sleep hygiene practices: dark, quiet rooms, regular schedules, and avoidance of stimulants before bed. These studies were motivated in part by the industrial society's recognition that sleep was vital for productivity and health. Although sleep science was in its infancy, it planted the seeds for a deeper understanding of this mysterious, essential state. Cultural attitudes towards sleep in the machine age. Finally, cultural attitudes towards sleep shifted during the industrial age. Once viewed as a natural, necessary pause, sleep became a scarce commodity, something to be rationed. In some circles, long work hours and minimal sleep were badges of honor, symbols of dedication and toughness. Sleeplessness was often romanticized in writers and artists, portraying tortured geniuses or tireless inventors. Yet, by the early 20th century, public awareness grew about the dangers of sleep deprivation. Newspapers and magazines published advice on better sleep habits, and doctors warned against overwork. Sleep was no longer simply a rest. It was an essential foundation for physical, mental, and social well-being in a fast-changing world. Industrial age beds and the rise of modern sleep culture. From handmade to mass-produced, the Industrial Revolution's impact on sleep. As the 18th century gave way to the 19th, the Industrial Revolution reshaped nearly every facet of life in Europe and North America, including the intimate act of sleeping. For centuries, beds had been handmade, carved by artisans, passed down through generations, and tailored to specific family needs. But now, steam-powered machinery and mechanized factories began producing standardized bed frames and mattresses at a rate and cost unimaginable in prior generations. The humble bed was now a product of mass production. Iron and brass beds became increasingly common, replacing the wooden structures of old. These metal frames were more affordable, easier to clean, and less susceptible to pests like bedbugs. For the working-class family moving to rapidly growing industrial cities, this affordability marked a quiet revolution in domestic comfort. Beyond the bed frame itself, the idea of what a bed represented was shifting. It was no longer solely a status symbol for the elite. It became a household necessity for the average worker. Families that once slept on straw-stuffed mattresses or even shared sleeping pallets now found themselves with actual beds, sometimes even with coiled spring mattresses that offered newfound levels of comfort. The growing middle class, nurtured by the industrial economy, fueled demand for more diverse and stylish beds. Bed manufacturers began catering to tastes rather than just needs, offering ornate designs or minimalist styles. Entire catalogs were dedicated to bedroom furniture, encouraging consumers to dream not just of sleep, but of the kind of life a modern bed symbolized. This transition marked more than just a shift in manufacturing. It signified the beginning of a broader cultural transformation. Sleep was no longer a passive state entered after a hard day's work. It was becoming a curated experience, with the bed at its center. Mass production gave rise to mass dreaming, and the modern concept of sleep quality started to take root in the public consciousness. Iron frames and factory lines, beds become accessible. As factories popped up across England, Germany, France, and the United States, iron and brass bed frames emerged as the symbols of industrial craftsmanship. Unlike traditional wooden beds that required skilled carpenters, metal beds could be produced using standardized molds and assembled quickly on factory floors. These iron beds offered several practical benefits. First, they were durable and long-lasting. Second, their smooth surfaces made them less hospitable to insects and easier to clean, making them especially popular in hospitals and boarding houses. Third, their modular construction allowed them to be disassembled and transported more easily, aligning well with the growing mobility of the urban population. Iron beds also democratized sleep in subtle ways. No longer the domain of the wealthy, quality beds became attainable for factory workers, clerks, and tradespeople. With growing literacy and access to advertising, people began associating good sleep with good beds. Magazines and catalogs featured gleaming iron frames as hallmarks of hygienic, modern living. This accessibility extended beyond the bed frame. Factory production led to innovations in bedding as well. Affordable cotton sheets, quilted blankets, and uniform pillows. The bed was no longer an isolated piece of furniture but the centerpiece of a coordinated sleep ensemble, sold to households in packages and promoted as a cornerstone of modern life. The advent of spring mattresses. One of the most revolutionary inventions in sleep history was the spring mattress. Introduced in the mid-19th century, it replaced the straw, horsehair, or feather stuffing of earlier beds with coiled metal springs encased in fabric. Spring mattresses offered a dramatically different sleep experience. The springs adjusted to body weight, providing even support and cushioning joints in ways that previous materials could not. As a result, they were heralded not just as luxuries but as healthful necessities. Medical journals of the time began to recommend spring mattresses for back support, and orthopedic health slowly entered the mainstream lexicon. The development of these mattresses paralleled innovations in other fields. Just as the steam engine revolutionized transport and the telegraph transformed communication, the spring mattress reinvented rest. For factory workers who spent their days in hard labor, a supportive mattress wasn't just comfort, it was recovery. As demand surged, manufacturers introduced new varieties: innerspring, hybrid, and eventually foam-topped models. Spring mattresses began to be marketed in combination with slatted iron beds, complete with mattress toppers and washable covers. What had once been a sack of straw became a carefully engineered device designed for health, hygiene, and longevity. Urbanization and the shrinking bedroom. Industrialization led to the rapid growth of cities. Families moved into compact apartments and tenements, and with this shift came a redefinition of space. The bedroom, once a large and private chamber in a rural farmhouse or manor, became smaller, multifunctional, and increasingly shared. In these urban settings, space was at a premium. Beds had to be efficient. Folding beds, Murphy beds, and sofa beds became popular innovations. Iron bed frames were designed to be narrower and lighter, maximizing floor space. Bunk beds and trundle beds became common for children in shared rooms. The compact bedroom also meant the bed took on new roles. It became a place not only for sleeping but for reading, sewing, praying, and occasionally eating. With the introduction of gas lighting and later electricity, people spent more time awake in bed, engaging in leisure activities that were once confined to other rooms. This spatial reorganization also led to new design aesthetics. Bedding became brighter and more decorative. Bedspreads were selected to match wallpaper, and pillows were arranged in ornamental displays. The bedroom became a personal sanctuary, even if that sanctuary was shared or just a few square feet wide. The birth of the middle-class bedroom. With industrial prosperity came the rise of a burgeoning middle class, and the bedroom became a defining marker of this social status. Middle-class homes featured bedrooms that were separate, private, and fully furnished with coordinated pieces: a bed, a dresser, a nightstand, and perhaps even a vanity. This shift represented more than affluence. It reflected a cultural change in how people viewed sleep and intimacy. Couples began to share beds routinely, and children were given their own sleeping spaces whenever possible. Privacy, once a luxury, became a norm, and with it came expectations of cleanliness, decorum, and comfort. Middle-class families took pride in their bedrooms. They decorated them with lace curtains, patterned quilts, and framed portraits. The bed itself was no longer just a piece of furniture but a canvas for personal expression. The concept of bedroom sets emerged, and people were encouraged to invest in matching furnishings as a sign of taste and respectability. Bed-making became a daily ritual, and etiquette guides began prescribing how a proper bed should look. This domestic focus paralleled the Victorian ideals of modesty and order, reinforcing the bedroom as both a physical and moral space. Hygiene, health, and the science of sleep. As industrialization surged forward, so too did advancements in science and medicine. One significant shift during the late 19th and early 20th centuries was the growing belief that sleep hygiene was essential to personal health and societal well-being. Physicians began publishing articles not only about diet and exercise but also about the importance of restful, uninterrupted sleep. Medical authorities linked sleep disturbances to everything from poor digestion to mental instability. As germ theory became widely accepted, cleanliness became a critical concern, not just in public life, but in the private sphere of the bedroom. Beds, mattresses, and bedding were now examined as potential hosts of disease. Mattresses filled with horsehair or feathers were gradually replaced with spring and cotton alternatives, which were believed to be more hygienic and easier to maintain. Ventilation became another focus. Advice literature and health manuals recommended bedrooms with windows open at night, crisp cotton sheets, and sunlight as a disinfectant. The belief in airing out bedding, exposing it to fresh air daily, became common, especially in urban environments where concerns about sanitation were heightened. This focus on hygiene intersected with new technologies, such as the vacuum cleaner and electric fan, which helped keep bedrooms cleaner and more comfortable. The bed was now not only a place of rest, but also a site for health maintenance, a sanitized oasis within the smoky and often polluted industrial city. The science of sleep also began to take root. Though rudimentary by modern standards, researchers began conducting studies on the benefits of sleep duration and quality. Schools and employers even adjusted schedules based on findings that well-rested individuals were more productive. Sleep was no longer viewed merely as a passive state. It was an active contributor to physical recovery, emotional regulation, and intellectual performance. This newfound scientific interest bolstered the market for sleep-related products. Advertisements promised better posture, improved breathing, and longer lifespans, all from the right mattress or pillow. Sleep was medicalized, and the bed became a therapeutic tool, embodying the merging of technology, comfort, and wellness. The bedroom as a cultural symbol. As industrial society matured, the bedroom began to reflect broader cultural values. No longer just a private corner of the home, the bedroom emerged as a space loaded with symbolic meaning, one that communicated identity, aspirations, and social class. Magazines and home guides started showcasing ideal bedrooms. These often depicted clean, tastefully decorated spaces with matching furniture, lace curtains, and books on bedside tables. For middle-class families, emulating these standards became part of striving for respectability. The bedroom was expected to reflect one's personal order and discipline, especially for women, who were seen as the moral caretakers of the home. In literature and cinema, bedrooms became the setting for moments of emotional introspection or transformation. A young woman journaling at night, a mother comforting a child, a couple sharing secrets by lamplight, all reinforced the idea that the bedroom was the emotional heart of the home. Gender norms also played a role. Men's bedrooms were often imagined as studies or dens, places of thought and solitude, while women's bedrooms were portrayed as soft, romantic, and decorative. These roles shaped how beds were made, what fabrics were used, and even how people posed for photographs. As photographs became affordable, many families chose to take portraits in or around the bedroom, using the bed and its surroundings to communicate their dignity and domestic success. For immigrant families establishing new lives in industrial cities, showcasing a well-kept bedroom was a way to claim belonging in a modern, respectable society. The bed itself, once hidden from guests, became something to be proudly displayed, made daily with care and presented as a reflection of personal values. The bedroom evolved from a utilitarian sleep space into a microcosm of the era's ideals: privacy, purity, order, and ambition. Advertising, consumerism, and the dream of better sleep. With mass production came mass marketing, and the bedding industry was quick to capitalize on the cultural transformation of sleep. By the late 1800s and early 1900s, advertisements for beds and mattresses were everywhere: newspapers, catalogs, department stores, and even theater programs. These ads didn't just sell products, they sold dreams. A well-made bed was portrayed as a path to success, romance, and vitality. Slogans promised sleep like a king, or wake refreshed and ready to conquer the day. The bed became a status symbol, not through grandeur but through association with modernity, health, and refinement. Mail-order catalogs from companies like Sears offered entire bedroom sets that could be delivered by rail. These packages included bed frames, mattresses, linens, pillows, and even instructions for arrangement. For families in rural areas, such catalogs offered a tangible link to the tastes and trends of urban elites. Advertising played on emotional appeal. It connected sleep quality to productivity at work, attractiveness in romance, and performance in school. A restless night was equated with a life off course. A perfect bed, on the other hand, could set everything right. This consumer revolution created a competitive market. Companies invested in research, design, and branding. They used testimonials, doctor-approved labels, and celebrity endorsements to build credibility. The industry introduced variety and specialization: orthopedic mattresses, hypoallergenic pillows, sleep systems for couples with different firmness needs. Sleep became a commercial pursuit. People began investing in bedtime routines, special nightwear, and nighttime beverages. The concept of the 8-hour sleep as ideal was reinforced in ads, creating both aspiration and anxiety. If you weren't sleeping well, perhaps you needed to buy better things. Thus, consumerism became embedded in the act of sleep. The bed transformed from a simple necessity to the centerpiece of a billion-dollar industry driven by the promise of rest, renewal, and reward. Global influences and cross-cultural trends. As industrialization spread and global trade expanded, beds and sleep habits began to reflect cross-cultural exchanges. Ideas and materials flowed across continents, reshaping how people thought about nighttime comfort. For example, Japanese tatami mats and futons gained popularity in parts of Europe and America, especially among intellectuals and artists drawn to minimalist aesthetics and Eastern philosophies. These low, simple bedding systems contrasted sharply with the elaborate Victorian bed, offering a new perspective on what restful living could look like. At the same time, British and American bedding styles made their way into colonized regions through trade and imperial influence. Four-poster beds, iron frames, and spring mattresses became status symbols in colonial households, often replacing or blending with indigenous sleep practices. This fusion led to unique hybrids: canopied iron beds in tropical climates, for instance, adapted to mosquito control while maintaining Western decor sensibilities. Immigration further enriched sleep culture. Italian, Irish, Jewish, and Chinese families brought distinct traditions with them to America's cities. Some retained communal sleep customs. Others adapted to nuclear family arrangements and private bedrooms. These transitions were not just about furniture, but about identity and belonging. Religious traditions also shaped bedtime rituals. Christian evening prayers, Jewish Shema, and Islamic du'as introduced spiritual dimensions to the nightly routine. Beds were often oriented according to religious customs or placed beneath icons and protective charms. With the invention of photography and travel literature, people became curious about how others slept. This fascination led to exhibitions and articles comparing global sleep customs, from hammocks in the Amazon to floor mats in Korea, reinforcing both admiration and a sense of Western superiority. In this era of global exchange, the bed became a site where cultures met, clashed, and evolved. It reflected not just where people rested, but how they interpreted rest, comfort, and connection in an increasingly interconnected world. Toward the 20th century, sleep as a lifestyle. By the dawn of the 20th century, Sleep had become more than a physiological need. It was a lifestyle, complete with routines, products, philosophies, and aesthetics. The industrial era had turned the bed into a machine for comfort, a platform for dreams, and a symbol of one's place in the world. Daily schedules were shaped around the 8-hour workday and 8-hour sleep ideal. Urban lighting extended the waking hours, while blackout curtains and bedtime teas promised to bring darkness and calm when needed. Magazines published bedtime tips, and early psychologists began analyzing dreams and sleep patterns as gateways into the mind. Children's sleep became a focus. Pediatricians recommended strict bedtime routines, and children's literature often featured bedtime scenes as moments of moral and emotional growth. Parents were encouraged to invest in child-sized beds, clean nightclothes, and lullaby rituals to ensure their offspring grew up healthy and well-adjusted. The bedroom, too, changed again. It became a domain of intimacy, self-expression, and aspiration. People decorated their sleeping spaces to reflect their tastes and ambitions, and the act of going to bed became imbued with ritual, washing, reading, reflecting. Beds were sold not only for their functionality but for how they made you feel. Glamorous, safe, inspired, modern. Sleep was no longer just downtime. It was marketed as essential to becoming the best version of oneself. And so, by the close of the industrial age, the transformation was complete. From a handcrafted straw pallet to a factory-made sleep sanctuary, the bed had evolved into a cornerstone of modern life, woven with threads of science, commerce, culture, and the universal human longing for rest. Modern innovations in bed design and sleep technology. The rise of adjustable beds, personalized comfort in the 20th century. The 20th century ushered in a revolution in bed design with the introduction of adjustable beds. Initially developed for hospital and medical use, these beds allowed patients to customize their sleeping position to relieve pressure, improve circulation, and assist in recovery. Unlike traditional flat beds, adjustable beds could raise or lower the head, feet, or both, catering to individual health needs. By the mid-1900s, this technology gradually transitioned into the home market. The increasing awareness of sleep health and ergonomics led manufacturers to develop models suitable for everyday consumers. Adjustable beds became a symbol of luxury, comfort, and the merging of health technology with daily life. These beds contributed to a cultural shift. The bedroom was no longer just a place for sleep, but also for rest, relaxation, and leisure activities like reading or watching TV. With motorized controls and even massage features, adjustable beds offered a bespoke sleep experience, allowing users to find their ideal position with ease. The innovation of adjustable beds also underscored broader technological trends. The rise of automation and customization in the modern home. Sleep technology began to be seen as part of overall wellness, connecting beds to a larger conversation about quality of life. Memory foam mattresses, the science of pressure relief and support. Memory foam mattresses are one of the most significant innovations in sleep technology. Developed in the 1960s by NASA to improve seat cushioning and crash protection, memory foam soon found its way into consumer mattresses. This viscoelastic material reacts to body heat and pressure, molding itself to the sleeper's shape for personalized support. Unlike traditional spring mattresses, memory foam reduces pressure points by distributing body weight evenly. This not only improves comfort but also enhances blood flow, reducing tossing and turning during the night. Memory foam also isolates motion, making it ideal for couples. The widespread popularity of memory foam mattresses reflects the growing influence of scientific research on sleep products. Sleep companies now emphasize ergonomic design and materials that promote spinal alignment, temperature regulation, and durability. By the 21st century, memory foam had become a household name, often combined with cooling gels and other advanced materials to address heat retention issues. Its impact on sleep quality has been widely studied, contributing to a broader understanding of how bedding materials affect health. Smart beds and sleep tracking, data meets dreaming. The digital age has brought smart beds equipped with sensors that monitor sleep patterns, heart rate, breathing, and even body movements. These beds connect to smartphones and apps, offering users detailed analytics and personalized recommendations for improving sleep. Smart beds can automatically adjust firmness, temperature, or position based on real-time data. Some models even incorporate gentle alarms that wake the sleeper during lighter sleep stages, minimizing grogginess. This integration of technology into sleep furniture represents a new frontier in sleep health, one where data empowers better rest. It reflects a society increasingly focused on self-optimization, quantified health, and biofeedback. However, the rise of smart beds also raises questions about privacy and technology's role in intimate spaces. While many celebrate the benefits of personalized sleep environments, others worry about over-reliance on gadgets that may disrupt natural sleep rhythms. Eco-friendly and sustainable bedding, sleeping with a conscience. As environmental awareness grows, so does demand for eco-friendly bedding. Modern innovations include mattresses made from natural latex, organic cotton sheets, and recycled materials designed to minimize ecological impact. Sustainable beds emphasize not only comfort but also health and ethical production. Many manufacturers avoid toxic chemicals, opting for hypoallergenic and biodegradable components. The shift towards sustainability reflects broader cultural trends valuing responsible consumption and long-term health. Sleep environments are increasingly viewed as extensions of overall well-being, where the materials matter as much as the comfort. Consumers now have access to certifications like Global Organic Textile Standard, GOTS, or CertiPUR-US, helping them make informed choices. This movement toward green sleep products marks a significant departure from earlier eras when durability and cost alone dominated buying decisions. The influence of minimalism. Less is more in bed design. Minimalism has influenced modern bed design profoundly, emphasizing simplicity, clean lines, and functionality. Minimalist beds often feature low profiles, muted colors, and absence of excess decoration, creating calm and uncluttered sleep spaces. This trend aligns with the growing understanding that a serene environment supports better sleep. Cluttered or overly ornate bedrooms can contribute to mental stimulation, while minimalist spaces encourage relaxation and restfulness. Minimalist design also often incorporates multifunctional furniture, perfect for small urban bedrooms where space efficiency is vital. The aesthetic of minimalism extends beyond design, reflecting cultural shifts toward mindfulness, intentional living, and prioritizing essentials over excess. In this way, beds have become symbols of calm and clarity. Innovations in pillow design, from feather to ergonomics. Alongside mattress technology, pillow design has undergone remarkable change. Traditional feather and down pillows have been supplemented by memory foam, latex, and even cooling gel pillows that offer ergonomic neck support. Modern pillows are designed based on sleep position. Side sleepers, back sleepers, and stomach sleepers each have specialized designs to support natural spinal alignment. Materials now also emphasize breathability and hygiene, with covers that wick moisture and resist dust mites. These advances reflect deeper scientific knowledge about the role of head and neck support in preventing sleep disorders like apnea or chronic pain. The pillow, often overlooked, has evolved into a crucial element in the quest for restful sleep. The role of temperature control in sleep, heated and cooling beds. Temperature profoundly affects sleep quality, prompting innovations in bed design that regulate warmth. Heated mattress pads became popular in the 20th century, offering cozy warmth in cold climates. More recently, cooling technologies have been developed, including gel-infused memory foam, breathable fabrics, and even beds equipped with active climate control systems that adjust temperature dynamically throughout the night. This technology addresses a major sleep complaint: overheating. By maintaining optimal temperatures, these beds help users fall asleep faster and experience fewer awakenings. Temperature control beds illustrate the marriage of comfort, science, and technology, emphasizing that good sleep depends on a complex balance of factors. Futuristic materials, graphene, latex, and beyond. Innovators continue exploring new materials to enhance sleep quality. Graphene, a super-thin, highly conductive material, has entered bedding for its ability to dissipate heat and prevent microbial growth. Latex mattresses, both natural and synthetic, are prized for durability, elasticity, and resistance to allergens. Researchers are investigating materials that are both comfortable and sustainable, blending technology with ecology. These futuristic materials hint at the ongoing evolution of sleep environments, driven by advances in chemistry, biology, and environmental science. Integration of aromatherapy and sound in sleep environments. Modern sleep spaces often incorporate multisensory approaches to enhance rest. Aromatherapy diffusers releasing lavender or chamomile scents are common, based on research showing calming effects on the nervous system. Similarly, sound machines producing white noise or gentle nature sounds help mask disruptive noises and facilitate deeper sleep. Some smart beds and pillows integrate these features, synchronizing scent release and sound with sleep cycles. This holistic approach marks a shift from focusing solely on physical comfort to considering the entire sensory environment. The future of beds, AI, robotics, and beyond. Looking ahead, bed technology promises even more radical innovations. Artificial intelligence may soon personalize sleep environments automatically, adjusting firmness, temperature, and sensory stimuli in real time. Robotic beds could provide therapeutic massages or reposition sleepers to prevent bed sores and promote circulation. Virtual reality may create immersive pre-sleep experiences designed to induce relaxation. These futuristic concepts highlight the continuing human quest to perfect sleep, blending cutting-edge technology with timeless needs for rest and recovery. Cultural impact and sleep rituals around the world. Siesta, the Mediterranean tradition of midday rest. In many Mediterranean countries, the tradition of the siesta, a short nap taken after lunch, has shaped daily life for centuries. Originating from the hot climates of Spain, Italy, and Greece, the siesta offers a practical way to avoid the midday heat, giving people a chance to recharge. Historically, this practice allowed workers to break up their day, balancing labor with rest. The siesta's cultural significance goes beyond mere sleep. It represents a slower pace of life and a focus on well-being. Even today, while modern work schedules have changed, echoes of this tradition remain in the rhythm of daily life. The siesta is more than a nap, it's a social ritual, an acknowledgement of human limits and a celebration of rest. Japanese inamuri, the art of sleeping on the go. In Japan, inamuri, which means sleeping while present, is a culturally accepted practice where people doze off in public places, such as on trains, at work, or in cafes. Unlike napping elsewhere, inamuri is often seen as a sign of diligence, demonstrating that the sleeper is working so hard they need rest. This unique cultural attitude reflects Japan's work ethic and societal norms, where exhaustion is understood but not openly acknowledged. Inamuri allows brief recovery without stepping away from responsibilities. It challenges Western notions of privacy and sleep, illustrating how cultural values shape perceptions of rest. The Indian tradition of nighttime prayer and meditation before sleep. In India, sleep is often intertwined with spiritual practices. Many people engage in nighttime prayers or meditation before going to bed, seeking mental calmness and spiritual connection. This ritual serves to transition the mind from daily activities to restful states, encouraging peaceful sleep. The blend of spirituality and sleep highlights how many cultures view rest as not only physical but also a sacred process. These bedtime practices reveal the role of intention and mindfulness in preparing for restorative rest. Scandinavian hygge, creating cozy sleep environments. The Danish concept of hygge, often translated as coziness, emphasizes comfort, warmth, and contentment. Hygge influences bedroom design and sleep habits by encouraging soft lighting, natural textiles, and peaceful atmospheres. In Scandinavian countries, long winters and limited daylight make creating a cozy, inviting sleep environment essential for mental health and good sleep. This cultural approach focuses on simplicity and connection, turning sleep into a cherished daily ritual. Hygge reminds us that the environment we create deeply affects our ability to rest and recharge. Middle Eastern bed customs, gathering and resting. In many Middle Eastern cultures, the bedroom and sleep space are places not only for rest but also socializing and hospitality. It's common to find beds or cushions arranged to accommodate family gatherings or guests. Sleep is integrated with social life, and the design of beds and sleep spaces reflects this communal aspect. The use of rich textiles, vibrant colors, and comfortable cushions creates an inviting, warm environment. This tradition underscores the intersection of rest, community, and culture. The importance of sleep in traditional African healing practices. Sleep holds a significant place in many African traditional healing systems. Dream interpretation and the state of sleep are often linked to spiritual health and guidance. Sleep rituals might involve herbal treatments, music, or prayers to protect the sleeper and encourage restorative rest. These practices emphasize that sleep is a gateway to the spiritual world and personal well-being. Understanding these customs highlights the holistic nature of sleep beyond its physical function. Indigenous North American sleep traditions. Among various indigenous North American communities, sleep practices are often connected to nature and the cycles of the environment. Sleep spaces might be arranged to align with spiritual beliefs, including the direction one sleeps or proximity to natural elements. Dreams are highly valued, considered messages or visions with meaning. Sleep is part of a broader spiritual and cultural worldview that honors rest as essential for harmony with oneself and the world. These traditions reveal sleep as a deeply integrated part of life and identity. The siesta's decline and urbanization effects worldwide. As cities grow and work cultures intensify globally, traditional sleep rituals like the siesta face decline. Urban lifestyles prioritize continuous work hours and productivity, often at the expense of rest. This shift impacts public health and cultural identity, showing how modernization changes sleep patterns. People increasingly adopt segmented sleep, shorter naps, or no naps at all. The erosion of these rituals highlights tensions between tradition and contemporary demands. Nap culture in Latin America, power naps and family rest. In Latin American countries, napping remains an important tradition, often integrated into family life. The siesta and shorter power naps help balance work, family, and social life. Napping is associated with health benefits and viewed positively as a tool for enhancing productivity and well-being. Family members may rest together, reinforcing social bonds. This cultural embrace of naps reflects broader values of balance and human connection. The globalization of sleep practices and technology. With globalization, traditional sleep rituals are blending with modern technology. People worldwide adopt sleep gadgets, apps, and new mattresses while still holding onto cultural customs. This hybridization creates new sleep cultures, mixing ancient wisdom with innovation. It raises questions about preserving heritage and adapting to new realities. The rise of smart beds, technology meets comfort. The evolution of the bed, spanning millennia from simple straw pallets to intricate spring mattresses, has always been closely tied to advances in technology and human understanding of sleep. Today, the journey of sleep innovation has reached an exciting frontier: smart beds. These beds harness cutting-edge technology, merging comfort, health monitoring, and personalized adjustments to enhance sleep quality like never before. Smart beds are not just furniture. They are intelligent sleep systems equipped with sensors, actuators, and connectivity features. Embedded with sensors that monitor heart rate, breathing patterns, and movement, these beds collect real-time data while the user sleeps. This information is then analyzed through integrated software or connected apps, providing users with detailed insights into their sleep cycles, disturbances, and overall sleep health. One of the earliest incarnations of smart beds emerged from the mattress industry's quest to offer customized comfort. Instead of a one-size-fits-all mattress, smart beds allow users to adjust firmness on different sides of the bed, catering to individual preferences for couples sharing the same bed. Through remote controls or mobile applications, sleepers can modify settings dynamically, improving comfort and reducing disturbances. In addition to comfort customization, many smart beds incorporate temperature regulation technologies. Recognizing that body temperature significantly affects sleep quality, these beds can actively warm or cool the sleeping surface, maintaining an optimal microclimate throughout the night. This feature is particularly beneficial for individuals who experience night sweats or cold extremities, allowing uninterrupted sleep by mitigating temperature discomfort. Another transformative aspect of smart beds is their integration with broader smart home ecosystems. These beds can synchronize with bedroom lighting, sound systems, and even smart thermostats to create an environment optimized for sleep. For example, Smart beds can gently raise the sleeper to a more upright position in the morning, gradually brighten the room lights mimicking sunrise, or play soothing sounds to aid in falling asleep. From a medical perspective, smart beds have found applications in hospitals and elder care. By continuously monitoring vital signs and movements, they help caregivers detect signs of distress, falls, or pressure ulcers early, improving patient safety and comfort. In the home setting, this technology is increasingly accessible, empowering individuals to track their sleep health and make data-driven lifestyle adjustments. Despite their many benefits, smart beds also raise questions about data privacy and cost. The detailed health information collected is sensitive and must be handled with strict privacy protections. Moreover, the advanced technology embedded in smart beds often comes at a premium price, making them less accessible to all demographics. Looking forward, research and development continue to push the boundaries of what smart beds can do. Artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning algorithms promise to enhance personalization further, predicting and adapting to sleep needs before the user even realizes them. Integration with wearable health devices and advances in materials science will also contribute to more responsive, durable, and eco-friendly smart beds. The rise of smart beds symbolizes the next step in humanity's ongoing quest for restorative sleep. By blending technology and comfort, they offer a glimpse of the future where beds are not just places to rest but active partners in maintaining health and well-being. The impact of sleep science on bed design. For centuries, beds were designed largely by tradition, craftsmanship, and available materials. However, the past century has witnessed an explosion of scientific understanding about sleep, how the body rests, the importance of sleep stages, and the effects of sleep deprivation. This burgeoning field of sleep science has dramatically influenced bed design, ushering in an era where beds are not just aesthetically pleasing but fundamentally engineered to promote healthier sleep. Scientific research revealed the significance of sleep cycles, REM and non-REM stages, and how physical support during these stages affects overall rest quality. Poor spinal alignment during sleep can lead to chronic pain, restless nights, and long-term health problems. Bed designers began collaborating with medical professionals and sleep scientists to optimize mattress firmness, support zones, and materials. Memory foam, introduced in the late 20th century, became a breakthrough material because it contours to the body's shape, distributing weight evenly and reducing pressure points. Its viscoelastic properties reduce tossing and turning by offering a cradling sensation, enhancing comfort based on sleep science principles. Ergonomics became central to bed design, with adjustable bases allowing sleepers to change head and leg elevation to improve breathing, reduce acid reflux, or ease circulation. Adjustable beds transformed bedrooms into customizable health spaces rather than simple rest areas. Furthermore, beds are increasingly designed with allergen reduction in mind, using hypoallergenic fabrics and antimicrobial treatments to protect respiratory health, especially important given the connection between sleep quality and immune function. The intersection of sleep science and bed design continues to evolve. Ongoing studies into circadian rhythms, the effects of light and temperature on sleep, and the relationship between sleep and mental health inform innovations. Beds today are being tailored to individual physiology, genetics, and lifestyle, transforming sleep from a passive experience into an active component of health maintenance. Sustainable bedding, eco-friendly materials and practices. As environmental consciousness grows globally, the bedding industry has embraced sustainability as a critical factor in bed design and production. Traditional mattresses, often laden with synthetic chemicals and non-recyclable materials, contribute significantly to landfill waste, raising urgent calls for greener alternatives. Sustainable bedding focuses on materials that are renewable, biodegradable, and sourced with minimal environmental impact. Natural fibers like organic cotton, hemp, bamboo, and wool have surged in popularity. These materials are grown without harmful pesticides and processed with eco-friendly methods, reducing toxic emissions and chemical exposure to users. The rise of natural latex mattresses is another eco-friendly advancement. Derived from rubber trees, natural latex is biodegradable and resilient, offering a durable mattress that lasts longer and avoids the synthetic chemicals found in conventional foams. Recycling initiatives have also emerged. Some companies now take back old mattresses, breaking down components to repurpose materials, minimizing waste. Innovations in modular mattress design allow individual layers to be replaced or recycled, extending bed lifespan and reducing environmental footprints. Additionally, production processes are evolving. Factories powered by renewable energy, reduced water usage, and less packaging waste are becoming industry standards. Consumer demand for transparent supply chains and ethical labor practices further motivates sustainable reforms. The movement towards sustainability in bedding represents more than an environmental trend. It aligns with holistic well-being, emphasizing that the quality of our sleep environment is intertwined with the health of our planet. Cultural shifts, how sleep and beds reflect changing lifestyles. The modern era has brought profound cultural shifts in how we view sleep and the bed's role in our lives. No longer merely a functional item, the bed today is a symbol of lifestyle, wellness, and even identity. In Western cultures, the emphasis on individualism has shaped bedroom design to focus on personalization and self-care. Beds come in a myriad of styles and sizes, from king-size luxury mattresses to minimalist futons, reflecting diverse personal tastes and values. Conversely, in some Asian cultures, traditional futon-style beds on tatami mats persist alongside modern beds, demonstrating a blend of historical respect and contemporary adaptation. The minimalist approach, valuing floor-level sleeping, aligns with philosophical ideas about simplicity and connection to nature. The rise of wellness culture has also popularized sleep hygiene practices, regular schedules, screens off before bed rules, and sleep-friendly environments. Beds are designed to support these habits, with features like blackout curtains, noise-reducing frames, and materials that regulate temperature. Changing work patterns, such as remote work and irregular shifts, have altered sleep routines. Beds now accommodate multipurpose use, daytime napping, work-from-bed setups, or meditation spaces, leading to innovations like adjustable bases and integrated storage. Moreover, the growing awareness of mental health has shifted attitudes towards sleep. People recognize that quality sleep is foundational to emotional balance, productivity, and overall happiness. This cultural shift elevates the bed beyond its physicality to a sacred place for restoration. The influence of digital media and sleep apps. The digital age has profoundly affected how we approach sleep and the bed's function. With smartphones and wearable tech ubiquitous, digital media has become both a challenge and a solution in the sleep arena. On one hand, excessive screen time before bed disrupts circadian rhythms by exposing the eyes to blue light, suppressing melatonin production and delaying sleep onset. This has led to increased sleep disturbances, poor rest, and associated health issues. On the other hand, technology also offers tools for sleep improvement. Sleep apps track duration and quality, offering personalized feedback and sleep coaching. These apps often integrate with smart beds or wearable devices, collecting data that guide behavioral changes. Some apps provide soothing sounds, guided meditations, or cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, techniques to combat insomnia. Combined with smart bedding technology, they create holistic solutions that blend physical comfort with behavioral science. The interplay between digital media and sleep underscores the paradox of modern life. Technology can hinder but also enhance sleep, depending on how it is used. Customization and personalization, the era of tailored sleep. Modern consumers demand more than generic products. They seek customized experiences that align precisely with their needs. This trend has revolutionized bed manufacturing, bringing personalization to the forefront. From adjustable firmness zones to customizable mattress layers, beds are now designed to adapt to individual body types, sleep positions, and health conditions. Companies offer online tools and assessments to help consumers select or build mattresses suited to their preferences. Personalized sleep solutions extend beyond mattresses. Pillows, blankets, and even sheets come in varieties designed for temperature control, allergy resistance, or ergonomic support. Moreover, data collected from smart beds and wearables inform ongoing adjustments, allowing beds to learn user habits and optimize comfort dynamically. Customization also reflects the diversity of the modern population, accommodating aging adults, athletes, pregnant women, and people with specific health issues. This movement toward tailored sleep transforms the bed into a bespoke wellness device, enhancing rest and quality of life. The role of sleep clinics and clinical testing in bed innovation. The partnership between bed manufacturers and clinical research institutions has elevated sleep product design to a scientific discipline. Sleep clinics conduct polysomnography and other diagnostic tests, revealing insights that shape mattress technology. Clinical trials assess how various bed materials and structures affect sleep architecture, pain relief, and respiratory health. These findings guide manufacturers in choosing optimal combinations of firmness, ventilation, and support. Furthermore, clinical feedback has led to beds designed specifically for patients with conditions like sleep apnea, arthritis, and chronic back pain. The rigorous scientific validation of sleep products ensures that consumer claims are backed by data, increasing trust and effectiveness. Sleep clinics also promote consumer education, helping people understand the importance of proper bedding in managing sleep disorders. The future of sleep, innovations on the horizon. Looking forward, sleep technology continues to push boundaries. Researchers are exploring beds integrated with biofeedback systems that respond instantaneously to sleep disruptions, adjusting firmness or temperature to restore deep sleep. Emerging materials inspired by biomimicry promise mattresses that self-clean, regulate temperature naturally, or provide adaptive support through smart polymers. AI-driven sleep coaching will integrate with bedding to predict sleep needs based on lifestyle, stress, and health data, creating highly personalized sleep environments. Sleep pods and capsule beds, initially popular in space travel and military contexts, may become common in urban homes, offering immersive rest experiences with soundproofing, aromatherapy, and light therapy. Sustainability and circular economy principles will drive innovations ensuring beds are eco-friendly and recyclable without sacrificing performance. Economic and social impacts of modern bedding. The evolution of bedding reflects broader economic and social dynamics. The mattress industry is a multi-billion-dollar global market, driving employment, innovation, and trade. Access to quality bedding correlates with social equity, as good sleep is foundational to health, productivity, and well-being. Initiatives providing beds to underserved populations demonstrate the societal importance of sleep infrastructure. Marketing trends reveal cultural aspirations around sleep, wellness, and home luxury, influencing consumer behavior worldwide. At the same time, the environmental cost of mattress production and disposal raises important social questions, driving consumer activism and regulatory attention. The bed as a reflection of human progress. From humble straw piles to high-tech smart beds, the evolution of the bed is a mirror reflecting human ingenuity, culture, and values. Each innovation, from material science to digital integration, illustrates our ceaseless quest for better rest, health, and comfort. The bed has transformed from a passive resting place to an active participant in health management and lifestyle expression. As society advances, beds will continue evolving, embodying the intersection of technology, sustainability, and human well-being. Understanding this journey helps us appreciate sleep not just as a necessity, but as a vital component of the human experience, shaped by history, science, and future possibilities.